Hey guys, Ben here, and welcome back to another video on The Flash Season 9. Today we're going to be talking about some of the final episodes that Season 9 is going to give us and who is going to be appearing in those episodes. So if you do go on to enjoy the video, please be sure to leave a like and a comment and subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any future DCTV videos later this year. So currently right now we're on episode 4 of The Flash Season 9. Episode 5 is coming out this Wednesday, so that's tomorrow night because I'm recording this on Tuesday. So please be sure after The Flash airs to stick around because my video on the episode is going to be out right afterwards and you are not going to want to miss it because it's the Red Death finale episode. It's the final episode of the first graphic novel of the final season. And so we're obviously going to have a lot to break down. So for now, let's go ahead and get into today's main topic. I have two topics. Going to be talking about a crossover topic towards the end of the video. But first things first, and this is a topic that we talked about many times before. I made a video maybe a couple weeks back. There was a other theory that I had, but this is kind of separate because we have information that apparently around episode 11 or 12, and you have to remember there is 13 episodes this season, Matt Letcher came back and filmed for a little while up in Vancouver. Now this was rumored and it was actually confirmed in an article, but we weren't told what episode it was going to be. But it was mentioned to me that episode 11 or 12 is when he's showing up. He could be in both episodes, he might just be in one of them. I'm not exactly sure exactly what episode it is, so I'm just going to give you both of them just so that I don't mislead you in case it's one episode instead of the other. But from what we know and what we've been theorizing about for a long time, episode 11 and 12 are going to be huge because they are the two final episodes before the finale. So that's going to be big in terms of wrapping things up for The Flash, and Eric Wallace has made it perfectly clear to us that they are mainly going to be focusing on wrapping up season 1 storylines that potentially didn't get rounded up fully. So this would be a case with Matt Letcher returning that a season 1 storyline would be wrapped up, and that is of course the original timeline Flash who we first saw back in the pilot episode as Future Flash and Reverse Flash battled it out throughout Nora and Henry Allen's house. Barry as a child witnessed it, and it ultimately has been revisited many times, most notably in Flashpoint where Barry tries to go back and he saves his mum. But at one point at the end of Flashpoint, he realizes he has to go back and try and fix things. So he has to let Matt Letcher's Reverse Flash go back and actually kill Nora in order to stabilize the timeline. And so as we've said many times, this has been the way that we've been expecting the show to end off because this is the main overarching story that really hasn't been solved. And it's not like we haven't gone back there. We've gone back there many times and it's always been a big deal, but we've never seen it from the perspective of the original timeline Flash or Future Flash or whatever you want to call him. And so clearly this is a version of Barry from the future. However, it could be a version of Barry from another past timeline that now doesn't exist. So potentially Barry doesn't ever go back and fight Reverse Flash. It's just another version of himself. But if it does turn out to be an actual version of Barry, and I'm talking about Earth Prime, our timeline Barry, we're probably going to see it in episode 11 or 12 because it seems like that is what they're leading towards. And we know in the series finale we have the return of many different past villains like Saboteur, Zoom, Godspeed and Reverse Flash, alongside the new villain for the end of the season, Cobalt Blue. And the version of Reverse Flash that we see in the finale is being played by Tom Cavanagh, who is probably the most famous version of Reverse Flash considering he's played him the most. But Matt Letcher is the OG Reverse Flash because that's actually what he looks like. Tom Cavanagh's version is just Reverse Flash with Harrison Wells' face on. And so considering that he's in the series finale and Matt Letcher's not in the series finale but he's in the episodes preceding that, you can presume that that finale is going to be just like a big epic finale that's going to be nostalgic with all of these past villains somehow coming back. So somehow Cobalt Blue has gathered them all together to face off against Team Flash in the present day. But for the previous episodes, clearly with Matt Letcher being around, that's where we're going to get the final conclusion to this story to do with Barry, Reverse Flash and Nora's death. And I think we're finally going to get it answered. Also, there was a bunch of set photos a while ago where we saw the return of John Wesley Shipp and Michelle Harrison in a previous episode, and it was similar kind of attire to what we saw them wear in the past, and it did look like it was actually time travel because Barry was back there, but also Cobalt Blue was there, so maybe there is some sort of link, but I'm pretty sure this main story in terms of like wrapping up the original timeline Flash versus Reverse Flash probably won't have too much to do with Cobalt Blue, but he's still going to be involved in the episodes, because it's not like we're gonna just wrap up this part of the story and then ignore Cobalt Blue for an episode. I don't think that's gonna happen, because they have to still make this a good season and not just wrap up like the whole show, even though they have a lot of different priorities. So Barry's definitely going to finally get to the bottom of why he went back in time when he was pursuing Reverse Flash. Well, clearly we know the reason why. It's because he's trying to stop Reverse Flash from killing his mum. But this version of the Flash that went back and fought Reverse Flash already knew that his past self from season 2 would be there trying to stop this from happening. So clearly he has all the knowledge from the future, and so it just makes sense that it would be a version around now that would be coming back. So it's nothing like super far into the future, because he did look relatively young. You couldn't tell if he was like from the distant future where Reverse Flash is from, or was he just like a version of Barry from like the 2020s, which we're at right now. So these episodes are going to be huge. I'm really looking forward to seeing how they wrap up The Flash, and it's also been announced that The Flash has finished filming. I'm going to make a separate video on that in the next few days, because we also got the announcement of the series finale date. So for now, let's go on to my second main topic. This is coming from Nerds of Color. I'm going to leave a link in the description below to this article. We're going to go over the rest of the article in a separate video. It's mainly about the scrap season 10 plans for The Flash. But I wanted to cover something that's kind of related and on topic, considering we're talking about Matt Letcher's version of Reverse Flash, because they asked showrunner Eric Wallace a while ago about Legends of Tomorrow and if he was going to wrap up the show. So they say this: so we've recently had a few announcements of other Arrowverse actors and characters like Javicia Leslie, Nicole Maines, and Keenan Lonsdale as Wally/Kid Flash coming back to the show. Were there any discussions to use this final season and tie up loose ends for other Arrowverse shows? Eric Wallace says this: there was originally when I had hoped we'd had 20 episodes, but my original concept was to have at least one, if not a two-parter, that wrapped up Legends of Tomorrow. And you know, there will be a little crossover, we get them back, we get them out of time jail, all those good things with Booster Gold, etc. When we found out that we only have 13 episodes, that was no longer possible. We barely had enough time to wrap things up with Barry and Iris' upcoming family, let alone who is Danielle Panabaker playing now, so there wasn't enough time. So unfortunately, we're not going to be able to wrap up the Legends storyline, which I know is very disappointing to the fans. It's disappointing to me, but we just don't have the bandwidth. So with what Eric Wallace is saying here, I think that's fair enough, and I like the fact that he acknowledges he would be open to this if he had enough episodes. So by his comments, he also makes it seem that he was expecting more episodes, but somehow it ended up with 13 episodes, maybe some agreement between the network and the cast and crew that whittled it down to 13 rather than 20. And the reason this links in to what we were talking about is because this is Legends, right? And Matt Letcher's Reverse Flash did show up many times. He was part of the Legion of Doom, and he played a big part in that season specifically. But also one of the biggest things and biggest controversies since the CW started cancelling Arrowverse shows left, right and center was the fact that Legends ended on a terrible note. It was them in time jail, and you got to see Booster Gold for like one episode, and that was it. There was no conclusion to the character stories. They've been around for such a long time. The fans were super involved, and so we didn't even get time to say goodbye. And so I think that was just the biggest shame, and same thing goes with Batwoman and any of the other shows. I just think they really don't care about it. I'm obviously talking about the network here, not talking about the people behind the show, because they are the ones that wanted to continue it, and I'm pretty sure it would have continued if it wasn't for Nexstar taking over the CW, which has just messed up everything. And so it's really nice to see that someone like Eric Wallace, the showrunner of The Flash, would be open to have a crossover if he had enough time. But I agree with Eric. Like, this is one of the shortest seasons of The Flash, and it's just no time to have all these stories, especially because Eric Wallace is adamant that he has to have 2 graphic novels in the season. That means about 5 or maximum 6 episodes to do with one villain, and then also another graphic novel like what we have with Red Death right now and what we'll get later with Cobalt Blue, plus interlude episodes to have those standalone episodes where you'll see the return of like Nicole Maines, you'll have Oliver Queen returning and different things like that. And so considering that they plan these seasons way in advance and they try and get people locked up, so for instance, there was talks of Nicole Maines coming to The Flash for a very long time. They had meetings very early on in the previous season, and it finally got confirmed, and so that just happened to be an episode this season. So if they were planning to do this, Eric Wallace would need to have some like future foresight and mind control, because Legends of Tomorrow was announced to be cancelled in quite a hasty rush. Like, it came out of nowhere, and I don't think they had the hindsight to actually prepare for something like this. And it's a huge deal. Like, imagine taking 2 episodes of a 13 episode season to end another show. It just doesn't make sense when you're trying to end your own show. So I think I'm on the same boat as Eric Wallace with this, although I do acknowledge that it would have been nice if we're able to wrap up some of these other shows. But for instance, he's been doing some great things in this final season. You have the return of Javicia Leslie as Batwoman. Her show obviously got cancelled, and that was terrible as well, so it's nice to see her back. It's nice to see characters from other shows that ended and that weren't cancelled, so shows like Supergirl and Arrow. We have the return of Nicole Maines as Dreamer, very excited for that. Also, we have the return of Stephen Amell as Arrow, plus David Ramsey as John Diggle. There is many things like this that are going to be super nostalgic in this season, and so I like that Eric Wallace is kind of playing to the fans, and that finale is going to be insane. Plus also what we talked about earlier in this video in terms of Matt Letcher's Reverse Flash showing up in one of the final few episodes and finally wrapping up that main story. It's very likely that that's going to happen, and so that's another fan service moment, even though it makes sense in terms of the scope of the show. We always knew it would come back to this night where Barry chases Reverse Flash back in time. It just makes complete sense, but they're not doing something as absurd as what they do in the comics in terms of Barry becoming the lightning bolt. Like, I think Eric has made the right choice. That's a step too far. Plus, the way that they're teasing how this show is going to end is they're going to end on a good note with Barry and Iris being a family, and Nora's going to be around. So why would they kill off Barry? It just doesn't make sense. It's not Arrow. But that pretty much does it for this video, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, please be sure to leave a like and a comment. Also subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any future videos. We are uploading daily right now. Like I said, tomorrow night The Flash is on, so stick around for my coverage of that, and go watch my latest video, which you can see by clicking on the top right corner of the screen. And so for now, I'll catch you guys later. Goodbye.
I see red.